This waifu does not exist.net is an AI waifu generator. Basically, the programmer fed a whole bunch of drawings of anime girls and a whole bunch of summaries and reviews of anime shows into it, and the AI uses the data collected from those to create new pictures of anime girls and summaries of anime shows that don't actually exist. Imagine that. Here's a typical example of what it makes. Ichiro Chie, a girl living in a mansion called Chizhou, is invited by Ichiro to a magic party where she participates in Ichiro's magic. While she does so, she finds out how strange magic is, and is sent by Ichiro to have their magic happen. Ichiro's team is able to find out about Ie and use it to help her fight against Ichiro. I think Ichiro is having a bit of an identity crisis. So yeah, it's an automated computer program that produces show plots that are scrambled bits of cliches and pictures of anime girls that are mostly generic. It's kinda cringe in that special weeaboo way, but it's harmless fun. Some of the character designs are even actually kinda cool. Kill it with fire! Burn everything! Burn everything! Okay, so this program has a few minor little kinks to it. Occasionally it glitches out ever so slightly. Sometimes the images turn out a little warped or a little sloppily made. Sometimes it also makes pictures of girls who are clearly psychotic maniacs, but considering the whole yandere fandom, that's not a bug so much as a feature. The most common mistake the program makes on faces seems to be with the eyes. The proportions and positioning often end up slightly off. Sometimes it can pass as just expressing certain emotions, but other times it looks like the waifu has a lazy eye. And sometimes, well, let's just say Anime Land is finally suffering the negative consequences of all those brother-sister romances. The most disturbing version of this, though, is the one where the girl ends up looking like she's trying to act happy while actually being in horrible agony. That's just slightly creepy. On the very rare occasion, an eye will be missing entirely. Not in an eye patch waifu way either, where the eye should be is just nothing. Although eye glitches are the thing that's most likely to make your automatically generated waifu look a bit weird, it's far from the only thing. Here's a rare nose glitch. I call this lovely lady Voldemort-chan, because she has a freaking slit where her nose should be. And of course sometimes the mouth. Oh my! What a lovely smile you have there, Oni-san. You know what? Let's take a break from the images and read a few choice parts from those randomized plot summaries. The first Japanese girl to reach puberty was known as Anya Jeikai. Like, the first one ever? This teenage girl was born in the summer of 1946. After her mother became pregnant, the father died at the age...
I have several questions.
Kitsune to Kiss, a cute short story about a girl who kissed her stepfather's older sister. The amazing thing about that sentence fragment is that it's garbled enough to be interpreted a number of different ways, and all of them are equally terrible. In the first episode of this anime, Suboda will make an assumption that his stepfather is his stepson-in-law. I think we've all been there. It's so strange that only men's underwear can match the female avatars. He then meets a man looking down upon him with his large, wide, red eyes. It's such a shame that even if you wanted a woman to wear a man's uniform, I can't do it. No, I can only wear my normal underwear, he says. The next day, as she got ready for bed, her mother said, "Hey, why don't you come look at my boobs?" So in a moment of wonder, I showed her the picture. I showed her a few smaller boobs, and she was impressed. As a team, the Yakuza of the Century consists of young boys and girls who are called MS Girls from all Japanese states. They are all part of a team. There are no girls in this team. Ichiban is asked by a school student to marry his pet dog. I'm sold. Give me the complete season on Collector's Edition Blu-ray. In the first episode of this anime, about 4 months after Isho's new girlfriend's birth... Let me repeat that. 4 months after Isho's new girlfriend's birth... Romantic glance. Itsuke is a popular high schooler who's been mistaken for a girl. He's saved by a mysterious man when he was younger by a guy with an obsessive erotic attitude.
I don't like where this is going.
Zibba Zibba is the story that you can watch over and over. Zibba Zibba is the story that you can only see over and over. Zibba Zibba is the story you can only see over and over. I'm sure that's especially true once the subliminal brainwashing kicks in. And then there was the one that included a tiny URL.com link to where I could supposedly watch new episodes. Of course, I had to check the link. It doesn't lead anywhere. Yet. The next randomized plot quote I'd like to show, unfortunately I can't. See, the site automatically cycles through these things when you first visit it, and you have to manually pause it. This one showed up fairly early on for me, and it was before I had decided to save anything. So it just cycled through, and I lost it. What I distinctly remember, though, is a summary of a show. It was described kind of like a typical romantic comedy, and then out of the blue, about a paragraph in, I distinctly remember, word for word, that the hero's love interest was raped by a very perverted janitor. I guess that's not technically the wrong way to describe that. It's kind of like saying that Joseph Mengele and Shiro Ishii were doctors with very bad bedside manner. Both top-tier waifus, by the way. Okay, you know what? Maybe I should stop with the plot summaries and go back to the glitched portraits. The faces can have a few problems, but below the neck things get even rougher for the program. Consider that with anime faces, there's generally quite a bit of uniformity to how they're structured, but when you're dealing with the body, even just shoulders, you've got an almost limitless number of outfits and poses. It's a lot for a humble AI program to work out. Sometimes the program makes a decent set of shoulders, other times the program gets a bit jumbled and vague with the shape of the body. Generally, though, it looks kind of alright as a portrait if you just kind of interpret that part kind of abstractly. Sometimes, however, the portrait very distinctly shows something below the neck that's not supposed to be there. The most common variant is when the program draws more empty space that matches the rest of the background, creating a waifu who's very clearly a floating, disembodied head. Gruesome, and all too common. Here's a waifu in the intermediate stages of this ailment. Yes, look at her distress as her body disintegrates beneath her. Soon she'll join the other floating, disembodied heads. Another victim of a capricious Lovecraftian AI god. Sometimes the AI tries to draw hands because some of the portraits it was fed as reference data have hands in them. It never ends well. Hands are clearly too complex and have too much variety of possible poses. Oh dear. You know, it's amazing what they can fix with plastic surgery these days. Sometimes the AI will create other entirely separate objects for a waifu to share her portrait with. This waifu is watching I'm going to be mature and say giant slug fly past her face. I don't know why. Maybe flying slugs are normal where she lives. And here we see a waifu with a rock just barely starting to make contact with the side of her face. Obviously, someone is trying to stone her to death. Waifu persecution is still tragically a problem in many places. Here we see a waifu sharing her portrait with what probably started as a hand, but is clearly some sort of alien squid thing. She doesn't look particularly happy, probably because the alien squid is maneuvering to squeeze inside her ear and wrap itself around her brain, turning her into a mind-controlled zombie. Unfortunately, she can't escape because she seems to be enmeshed in some kind of fleshy cocoon. All things considered, she's actually taking things pretty well. Speaking of alien brain parasites, they're a bit of a recurring theme too. This waifu has a giant amoeba burrowing into the top of her skull, and judging by the expression on her face, she's feeling the effects. That's the look of someone who just forgot why they were screaming because their higher brain functions have stopped working. Here's another parasite seeping in like a sort of liquid jelly. And again, this waifu does not look too happy. This waifu has cut out the middleman, and her brains are just straight up leaking out of her head. Sometimes, instead of a rock flying turd or alien brain parasite, the program will give a waifu a more human companion. I can't say I'm too fond of it. It's awkward when you want to spend time with your waifu and the ghost of her twin sister she ate in the womb is hanging around as a clingy third wheel. A surprisingly common problem. Sometimes a waifu will just be a dude. How progressive. Now let me point out that not all of this waifu does not exist.net's glitched artwork looks hideous or terrifying. Here's a girl whose eyebrows glitched out a little. It just looks like her eyebrow is a slightly strange shape, and it makes an otherwise very generic design a little more interesting. This girl has 2 pupils in her right eye. It's a little weird, but for her overall design, it kinda works, especially if it was justified some way by writing. I could see this being a character who's an alien or part demon or something. On rare occasions, the glitched out portraits actually look really nice. If these 2 pictures were shared on a big art sharing website, people would probably think they were legit works of art made by a person. This picture is actually one that the guy who introduced me to the site shared, as an example of it glitching out. And I think it looks pretty cool. It looks like artwork to a horror game for the Super Famicom or something. But enough of that. It's time to show the program at its most broken. I've been holding out so far. You want to see what happens when the program really goes off the rails? Welcome to Silent Hill. What a lovely waifu. Just find her a nice ceiling to crawl across, and I'm sure she'll be happy. I'm also sure some people would still go for it. Do you think it can get worse than that? Oh yeah, there we go. This may be the absolute worst image the site has produced. I call her Hiroshima-chan, because she looks like the product of extreme radiation exposure from an A-bomb. Please stop looking at me like that. Nobody wanted it to end up like this. It's not my fault your existence is horrible, unspeakable torment. Let's leave Hiroshima-chan to suffer in private. What's that, and do I need to censor it? What's that, and do I need to censor it? And I'm pretty sure this one is what happens when you cross a smug anime girl with an accurate depiction of some spirit being from either the Old Testament or Native American folklore. There are more, quite a few more. I'm going to end the video with an entire montage of them. But before I do, let me say, I love this waifu does not exist.net in all its broken, creepy glory. If it works correctly, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. And I can see writers of horror, fantasy, and science fiction getting good inspiration from this gaze into the mouth of AI-generated madness. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon. Have a great day, everyone, and pleasant dreams. Agina gets attacked by a man who is a girl wearing high school uniform, whom she is also attracted to.